have not gotten involved with Riverdale yet, my advice to you is to get involved with Riverdale because it's amazing. I'm not gonna lie. We got one more episode left until we got the season finale is gonna be next week, and we just had a doozy of an actual show. So much got revealed that it just didn't overwhelm you. It's just literally like I was on edge like throughout the whole show. Not so much to find out who killed Jason Blossom, but also all the big reveals. And yes, I'm like Betty. I'm holding my fist like this because I know sooner or later that that Bughead is gonna end just for the stupid threesome. I mean, not three way, triangle, for the whole stupid triangle, and we know how that goes, guys. For those Girl Meets World fans over there, we know how that goes. Not good. But in the very end, I'm not so thrilled about the triangle because you honestly see the chemistry between there are some characters that have far more chemistry, better chemistry than others. And of course, Betty and Jughead by far is one of my favorites. And I don't usually ship that hard about anybody. I'm not gonna lie, I did ship hard when it came to Lucaya when it was around. And yes, I am feeding me some Girl Meets World, but that's in the video all in itself. But other than that, I will say this. I definitely love Bughead, but it's going to break my heart even more knowing that it's going to end probably sometime in season 2. They're going to still stick to the Archie trope, the Archie comics, which I hope that they don't. It seems to me that what they're doing now is amazing. They're not sticking to the same old cut and paste in order type deal that the Archie comics is. And of course, you have pretty much Archie is just, oh man, he is somebody that's just not likable. I'm sorry, he's a complete Dudley Do Right. And honestly, he's a bit of a player. I'm not gonna lie, but then so was Archie in the comics, but he was kind of doofy with it. But in this whole turn, it just seems to me that the only person that Archie really loved was Miss Grundy. But other than that, I really do feel that he has more chemistry with Veronica, just like he did in the comics, because Veronica was a spice. I'm sorry, she was the spice of life. She was not bland and boring and simple like Betty was. Betty is safe than she was in the comics, in my opinion. But when it comes to the actual show, it seems like there's more layers to Betty, but Betty deserves somebody better than being a standby. And she's going to be a standby. And it just breaks my heart that, that Bughead, especially what Jughead has gone through, is going to completely end. But I'm thinking far too ahead here. There's so much stuff that actually happened in this episode, especially and everyone was thinking it about the twin cest between Cheryl and Jason. We were wrong. It was a completely different Blossom. It was Polly and Jason. We ended up finding out that the Coopers were actually Blossoms. They're related to the Blossoms. But here's another theory that I'm throwing out there. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that Polly is Hal's kid. I really do believe that Polly is FP's kid, which makes FP the father of Polly, which makes Polly a Jones. Like, I really do think that she is actually Jughead's, I guess, stepsister. Not stepsister, but half-sister. I think that Polly is Jughead's half-sister. That's my overall opinion, man. I really do believe that somehow Polly is she's not a Blossom at all, because she's not Hal's kid. And Hal happens to be the descendant of the Blossoms. He happens to be in the Blossom line, while Polly's mom is not. So I honestly think that Polly is somehow FP's kid, and somehow she's a Jones. I'm just saying. So it's not completely incest. People are saying it's incest because they think that she's a Blossom. I don't think she's a Blossom. I think she's a Jones. I think she's Jughead's half-sister. I'm just saying. But other than that, it's kind of creepy to find out that she has her third cousin's kids in her. Ugh. All I know is that there's far too much incest in that show. But other than that, that's my overall theory when it comes to Polly. I still don't trust her. I do think she's somewhat of a mastermind somehow. because her reactions to it all was somewhat, she wasn't like cringing or completely disgusted. She seemed like she was confused, but then she just was okay with it. I don't know. It was weird. And now she's home with the Coopers, so I guess we gotta eliminate her out of the whole murder thing. But honestly, the one thing that really got me was the fact that there is so much going on with the lodges, and there's so many hidden things with the lodges, especially Hermione. And I don't think that Hermione is that innocent. The fact that Hiram actually put money in her bag to pay off the serpents, I think that, in my opinion, that Hermione is scared to death of Hiram, and she knows exactly what he's up to and what he can do, and she knows. And Veronica, oh, gung ho, I gotta do what's right, because of course Veronica is in this whole good girl gone, instead of good girl gone bad, she's now bad girl gone good, and she wants to do everything right. And honestly, that she's a lot like Archie in that way, a freaking Dudley Do Right, or Dudleyna, I don't know. But other than that, I really think there's a lot to Hermione beneath the eye, and the fact is that I don't think she's the mastermind of anything. I think she's working straight out of fear, but I don't think she's stupid either. And I know that Hiram is going to definitely be coming back for season 2, which is going to be played by, good grief, I don't remember his name, but I know that he's married to Kelly Ripa. You guys know who I'm talking about. Mark Consuelos. Mark Consuelos is actually going to be Hiram Lodge, so I'm kind of excited to actually see that, because the man look good. He's easy on the eyes, so I don't mind looking at that. But other than that, we know how ruthless he can be, because I've actually seen him when he was in soap operas. He can actually play a pretty dirty guy, but not in that kind of way. But other than that, there was so many amazing scenes with Jughead. Cole Sprouse is probably one of the best actors ever. Like, you would think that anyone that comes from Disney is going to always be cheesy, but no, they bring out the best in them. There's not one Disney actor or actress that hasn't come out on top when they actually decide to continue to perform. Cole Sprouse is freaking nailing it. And I'm happy that he's not tied to just being a twin, that he's actually going on doing his own thing and not being teamed up with his brother Dylan. So it's amazing seeing him in these emotional scenes, especially the scenes that he had with Skeet Ulrich. It was amazing, like absolutely beautiful. And you literally put tears in your own eyes seeing him break down when his mom refused to see him. That just broke my heart right there. It really did. But other than that, it always brings me questions. Like, there wasn't really any Bughead moments, and I really wanted to see a Bughead moment, but I kind of knew there wasn't any because he was still pissed at Betty. But other than that, the fact that they brought back the murder wall, bringing everything together, eliminating people, and then the fact that big revelation that the Blossoms were actually the Coopers is huge. But it's even bigger, and also a big scratch to the head, finding out who did it. I had a gut feeling that it was either going to be a Cooper or a Blossom that murdered Jason. And yeah, I was right. It was a Blossom. I just didn't get the right one, because it was just too obvious. And unfortunately, the obvious answer happened to be true. Now, for those that haven't seen this episode, I'm telling you right now, turn it off right here, because I've already seen it, and next week is going to be season finale, so y'all got to catch up. But other than that, turn it off right here if you don't want to hear what's going on. Okay, now that you're gone, we end up finding out that Mr. Blossom ended up killing his own son. Why, we do not know. They ended up finding some sort of a flash drive inside the actual jacket of Jason Blossom, and they pulled it out while Betty, Veronica, Jughead, Archie, and Kevin saw the murder happen all at once. But leading on up to the getting the flash drive as well as the jacket, Joaquin ended up letting them know that where the jacket was hidden, after Joaquin kind of revealed some details that FP told him. And honestly, we ended up finding out from Mary, Archie's mom, that FP actually did call for Joaquin instead of anyone else, and that's how they ended up going to Joaquin and grilling him. But unfortunately for Kevin, he ended up finding out that his boyfriend is far in deep than he really wanted him to be, and Joaquin ended up leaving town because it got too heated. But before he left and before he gave Kevin a kiss goodbye, he ended up telling him exactly where the jacket was. So after that, they ended up watching the murder. We didn't really see it at first, but then we ended up hearing Jughead narrate what really happened. And the reason why that, and also we ended up finding out that FP actually did confess to a murder he didn't commit. And he did that in order to save his son. Because we ended up finding out a little bit later that Mr. Blossom was actually threatening FP that the same thing was going to happen to Jughead if he ratted him out about Jason. So other than that, it just got was blowing from there. That's why he tried to leave and go to Toledo. But by that time, I think that Mr. Blossom actually did put the gun inside of his trailer, and he framed him that way. But even if that, now that he's cleared for murder, unfortunately, FP is still responsible for kidnapping Jason. He kidnapped Jason to get him ransom money because Jason actually came to him and asked him for a getaway car. But he said it in term for a getaway car, you have to do a job for me. But then and he ended up realizing who he was, and that's when he wanted to hold him for ransom to get money. And that ended up going a little bit awry. The only guy that actually knew about the basement that the murder was recorded in was the serpent that actually went after Archie when Archie confronted him. That old guy, I can't remember his name. But we ended up finding him dead with needles in his arm. Convenient. But it's not as bad as when Cheryl ended up finding out that her dad did it. Because Betty ended up calling Cheryl, telling her to get out the house, telling her what went down. And Cheryl, as bold as that chick is, she's as bold as her red hair. She went down there, she stood next to her mom like, you done a bad thing, Daddy, and now everyone knows about it. Cheryl's freaking hardcore. She straight up is. And then we ended up finding out that there's a lot more to the Blossoms than just maple syrup. They ended up finding Mr. Blossom inside the barn, surrounded by maple syrup. And I guess before I get to that, Cheryl ended up going to her mom and actually confronting her mom and asking, like, how did this all happen? Why did they fight? And all these questions just led up to Cheryl's mom being all pissed at her, dragging her to the barn and say, oh, you think there's some hidden secret about us that made your dad or me want to kill Jason? Well, here you go. Nothing but barrels of maple syrup all over the place. So that just shows, okay, this is what it is. And like for a viewer like me, I'm like, okay, man. But other than that, after we end up finding Mr. Blossom inside the barn, strung up on the news, hung himself dead, we ended up seeing one of the barrels tipped over, and we found some drugs inside the maple syrup. Oh my gosh, the Blossoms are freaking drug kingpins. Like seriously, what is this? This is like the trap in the closet craziness. That's what this is. We end up finding out that not only the Blossoms are psycho, and the fact that they're incestuous and cool with it, these people are literally freaking drug kingpins. Like they are hustlers. Like you would have never thought the Blossoms would be straight up hustlers. Like I know I wouldn't. That shocked me to see drugs inside of a barrel, which maybe all those barrels would be full of some kind of drug. It was all wrapped up. It could be weed. It could be crack. Crack, cocaine, heroin. We don't know. But the fact is, they were dealing drugs, and and I think that somehow, and this is my own theory, somehow Jason. Well, I can't really say Jason found out about it because one of the kids that actually went on a somewhat so-called date with Betty actually said that Jason's been dealing drugs way when, and the fact that FP asked him to do a job, he had to have known somehow that this dude was a runner. And I think that Jason's been a runner for a very long time for his dad, but when he found out that Polly got pregnant, he wanted to go straight. He didn't want to deal with it anymore. He wanted to cut ties with his family, and I don't think that Miss Blossom knew. I really don't think that Mrs. Blossom knew about what her husband was doing. And I think that he was literally hustling behind her back. The fact that she didn't know that he killed her son lets me know that she don't know that he was dealing drugs. And the fact that dude had his hair turned white, I'm telling you right now, man, maybe it was something in the genes. I mean, it's already been revealed that the Blossoms family tree doesn't fork. So we already know that I mean, seriously, they've been kind of screwing each other in order to keep the line pure, even though there's nothing pure about a tree that doesn't fork. I'm just saying. But other than that, it's just absolute craziness. The fact that we found out that the Blossoms are drug kingpins, the fact that we find out that the Coopers are Blossoms, except for possibly Polly, who might not be, and then we ended up finding out the fact that Hermione has a lot more to her than just being a victim. Like, I'm just saying, like, maybe she was a bad girl trying to go straight, or maybe it's all front. I don't know. But then there's also some kind of underlying ties, a possibility of, and they kind of hint at the whole triangle, and I don't really want that to happen. But other than that, it was pretty much all about families, family coming together, family breaking, family not being repaired. But then it was a Jughead heartbreak heavy episode for me. But other than that, guys, this was phenomenal. I cannot wait until the season finale. It's gonna suck that we have to wait a few months before the next Riverdale. But y'all, it is absolutely amazing. But I want to hear your theories. For those that actually do watch Riverdale and enjoy it, I want to hear your theories and what you really think will happen in the next episode. I am curious to hear what you guys think. Leave in the comments below, and I will see y'all later. Peace out.